Part 67. Pirate Plant Fruit. Author, Lee A Dream. Chapter 701. You can search for Pirate Plant Fruit popular in Baidu to find the latest chapters. This time the turrets turned to the Ultan probe. The orangutans and other crew members on the deck of the Ultan detection all saw the huge barrels of the 9 terrifying long-range guns of the new Vicky Bello turning this way. Oh my god. The orangutan looked at the new Vicky Bello in shock. At this time, the goddess of springs raised the iron axe, and quickly chanted ancient magic spells. A wind was created around the iron axe, and a storm was formed. The storm quickly intensified, and was finally strong enough to cover the Ultan probe. Boom 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 boom. The Bello's 9 long-range guns opened fire furiously. 9 heavy artillery shells flew towards the Ultan probe. 9 heavy artillery shells pierced the sky above the sea and flew towards this heavy pirate ship. They flew quickly into the storm that was covering the ship. Boom 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 boom. 4 violent explosions sounded, and at the same time flames flew across the hull. 4 heavy shells were detonated by the storm. However, 5 heavy artillery shells passed through this powerful storm and landed on the deck of the Ultan detection. Boom, 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 boom. 5 heavy artillery shells hit the deck of the Ultan probe, causing a violent explosion. The heavy pirate ship shook violently. The goddess of springs urgently used an iron axe combined with magic to create wind power, successfully protecting herself and Robin. Robin looked at the spring goddess and said, "Thank you." The goddess of spring water dispelled the magic after she was safe. "You don't have to be so polite." The goddess of spring put away the iron axe, and then used the silver axe combined with magic to create ice and snow. Snowstorm. The goddess of spring water controlled the ice and snowstorm to extinguish the flames on the Ultan probe. The orangutans and some of the other crew members were covered in snow and ice. Fortunately, the spring goddess protects us. The orangutan quickly thanked the spring goddess. If the goddess of spring water hadn't used wind magic to protect her in time, all 9 heavy artillery shells would have hit the deck of the Ultan probe without missing a beat. Because of the windstorm created by the goddess of springs, 4 of the heavy artillery shells were intercepted. But even so, 5 heavy artillery shells hit the deck of the Ultan detection. The goddess of springs then extinguished these flames with ice and snow magic in time. The orangutan quickly observed the damage to the Ultan probe. After all, it was hit by 5 powerful heavy artillery shells just now, and 5 huge bullet holes appeared on the deck. The hull made of steel and hardwood is penetrated. It's dangerous. Fortunately, our arsenal is in the deep cabin near the stern of the hull. The orangutan breathed a sigh of relief now. Once the arsenal is detonated, that is the most terrifying. No matter how strong the ship is, once the arsenal is hit and detonated, it will also be blown into pieces and sink into the sea. Although the Victory Hunter and Ultan probe were severely damaged, the real powerful enemy, the new Vicky Bello, was still traveling on the sea. The deck of this super heavy warship is still burning with raging fire. Mont Blanc on board the Victory Hunter saw the situation on the new Witch Bello and quickly issued an order. Continue to use anti-ship torpedoes to attack this warship, quickly. Time is of the essence now. Once the 3 triple heavy turrets of the new Vicky Bello are loaded with shells again, the 9 long-range artillery will bombard again. Victory Hunter and Ultan probe conducted another anti-ship torpedo attack on new Witch Bello. Thump 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 thump. The 2 heavy pirate ships fired anti-ship torpedoes again, and anti-ship torpedoes were dropped into the sea one by one. This time each ship dropped 4 anti-ship torpedoes, and a total of 8 anti-ship torpedoes swam quickly towards the new Witch Bello. At this time, the new Vicky Bello had just been damaged by an anti-ship torpedo, causing its movement speed to drop significantly. In addition, the huge 200-meter long hull is more difficult to avoid anti-ship torpedoes, resulting in 8 anti-ship torpedoes hitting the super heavy warship one after another. Boom, 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 boom. The new Vicky Bellows hull was hit continuously by anti-ship torpedoes, and the entire huge hull was shaking violently. Inside the cabin of the new Vicky Bellow, Ross and the other crew members were in violent turbulence. Because this super heavy warship was violently attacked by anti-ship torpedoes, it felt like an earthquake here. Their firepower is also so powerful. Luoshi now also feels that the opponent's strength is not bad. Unexpectedly, these two heavy pirate ships had such powerful combat effectiveness. They first sank the guardsman and guardsman one after another, and then severely damaged the new Vicky Bellow. But it's not over yet. On the deck of the Uton probe, the Gorilla once again commanded the use of the Super Gorilla cannon to attack. Most of the orangutan statue in front of the bow was destroyed by the explosion caused by the shelling just now. But the Super Gorilla cannon is still intact. Aim and launch. The orangutan gave the order when the mighty cannon was ready. Boom. The muzzle of the Super Gorilla cannon with a diameter of 2 meters was flickering, and a special heavy artillery shell with a diameter of 2 meters was fired. This specially designed heavy shell hit the new Vicky Bellow in the rear of the hull. Boom rumble. An earth-shattering explosion sounded. This time a large hole was blown out of the rear of the new Vicky Bellow's hull. This time, the New York Bellow was hit by a total of 13 anti-ship torpedoes before and after, causing many cabins to be flooded, causing the ship to sink. The rear of the ship hit by the heavy shell was further down. The big hole that was blasted was 9 meters in diameter, bigger than before. And a lot of seawater can be poured in. After being attacked by sustained and powerful firepower, even the new Vicky Bellow, which had a very strong hull, finally couldn't bear it anymore and began to sink at an accelerated rate. This 200-meter-long super heavy warship finally ushered in its end. Long live! Everyone on the deck of the Victory Hunter cheered. Great! The people on the deck of the Uton probe were also very happy. After a thrilling battle, this powerful warship was finally sunk. Inside the cabin of the New York Bellow. Retreat quickly. Luoshi quickly ordered the crew to retreat. The surviving crew members hurriedly escaped from the sinking super heavy warship. Pirate Plant Fruit. Pirate Plant Fruit. Author, Lee A Dream. Chapter 702. You can search for Pirate Plant Fruit popular in Baidu to find the latest chapters. The new Vicky Bellow's hull sank more and more. However, due to water intrusion, the middle and rear parts of the hull sank first. Ross and many of the crew members left in the lifeboat equipped with the New York Bellow. There were crew members of the Bellamy pirate ship on board the new Vicky Bellow. In the end, including Ross, only more than people escaped. The men escaped the sunken super heavy warship in about a dozen small lifeboats. The New York Bellow continued to sink, but the sunken super heavy warship's hull sank, causing the hull to suck in seawater and form a large vortex at the location of the sinking. Crap! Paddle quickly! We are going to be sucked into the whirlpool. Terrible! Because of the vortex formed by the sunken ship, several lifeboats began to be sucked into it. The remaining 7 lifeboats were able to get out of the danger zone because of the desperate paddles of the crew members on it. Luoshi was also on board a lifeboat that escaped. Lord Luoshi, where should we flee to? A crew member quickly asked him. Luoshi was already frightened, and he said, "Now as long as we can reach land, that's all." The 7 lifeboats that successfully escaped began to row towards the land of Gaia Island. Everyone on the Victory Hunter and Uton probe continued to cheer. The extremely powerful super heavy warship New Vicky Bellow was also sunk. This naval battle ended with a complete victory for the Iruyama Allied forces. On the deck of the Victory Hunter, Luffy, Usopp and the apes danced with each other in their arms. Wow, we won! Luffy danced excitedly. We won! Usopp even took out a color powder release tube to release the color powder. The enemy's warship sank. The ape shouted excitedly. The other crew members were also very excited. Even the usually serious Mont Blanc became beaming. Mont Blanc looked at the calm sea and said happily, "This battle is really great. We fought bloody battles and won the final victory. It is really not easy to win this fierce naval battle in the end." Meanwhile, on the rocky island, after eliminating the enemies in the two heavy forts, Rog, Zoro, Sanji, and the Ninja King killed some small groups of guards. At this time, the four of them arrived at the magnificent castle on the island. Beside this magnificent castle, Rog and Sauron observed. The four of them still prepared their branches and wings. Branch wings are attached to the back. Let's go in and have a look. Rog was the first to fly into the castle with the branches and wings. Sanji and the others followed up. The four flew into a tower from above the castle. Rog, Zoro, Sanji, and the King of Ninjas entered the tower. From here proceed carefully down. Be careful, there may be potential enemies. Roger reminded the others. The four of them continued to descend cautiously from here. After all, this was the base camp of the Bellamy pirates. It didn't take long for the four of them to encounter two crew members of the Bellamy pirates patrolling with rifles. There is an enemy invasion. The two crew members of the Bellamy pirates raised their rifles and started shooting. First meet and two consecutive kicks. Sanji quickly rushed in front of them, swung his legs alternately, and kicked two Bellamy pirates crew members in the head. Dong dong. The two members of the Bellamy pirates were kicked in the head, and the whole body rolled out. After Sanji eliminated the two crew members of the Bellamy pirates, he looked down the stairs and said, "It seems we are bound to have a bloody battle." Zoro looked towards the stairs and said, "This is the enemy's lair. It is impossible not to alert the enemy." Now that the four of them had entered the castle, they would definitely fight Bellamy and the others to the death sooner or later. Rog put on the walnut armor again for possible battles here. Then the four marched for a while, and encountered more than 10 enemies one after another. There were even gunshots during the battle, and now the whereabouts of the four of them can be said to be completely exposed. Rog, Sauron, and the others continued to march, and finally reached a door similar to a hall. What is in this huge door now? Rog looked at the door suspiciously. Zoro seemed to feel something. He looked at the door and said, "There is a very strong murderous aura inside." As a swordsman with a keen sense of combat, Sauron could feel that there were strong enemies in the room inside this door. It doesn't matter what the enemy is, Bellamy and the others are the most powerful anyway. Let's go in. Sanji kicked the door open. After the door was opened, the scene inside was revealed. I saw that the interior was decorated like a conference room, and there was a group of people at the end. Among them, Bellamy with short blonde hair was sitting on the sofa at the far end, surrounded by those senior cotters of the Bellamy pirates. Bellamy with short blonde hair looked at Roger and Zoro. This man had a shocking scar on the left side of his face, and a pair of snow-white teeth gritted together. Those eyes were full of madness and murderous aura. Chiliu. Bellamy's tongue stuck out of his mouth and licked around it. "Aha, I didn't expect to see you again." Bellamy looked at Roger and the others. After the battle at the port of Demon Valley City, Bellamy could not forget Rog and Sauron. After all, this is the first time Bellamy, who has been rampant in the sea near Gaia Island, has encountered such a powerful enemy. "You're welcome, why are we not?" Roger and Bellamy looked at each other, and this crazy man made Roger feel a burst of explosive power. Bellamy repeatedly looked at Rog, Zoro, Sanji, and the King of Ninjas. "Just the four of you are here. But that's fine, since you are here. You are definitely not here as guests. Are you?" Bellamy asked the four of them in a tone full of beast breath. The tone seemed to be that of a sideburn dog looking for prey. Sanji looked at Bellamy and said, "To deal with you, I only need one night. Of course, I need some helpers to deal with others." At this time, there were Sakis, Eddie, and others around Bellamy. Also included are Muley and Mani. Mani saw that Sanji, a handsome guy with blonde hair and curly eyebrows, was among them, and his expression changed. In the previous battle, Sanji actually saved her when she was in danger. Because Sanji was here, Mani always shrank back. Pirate Plant Fruit. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Pirate Plant Fruit. Author, Lee A Dream. Chapter 703. You can search for Pirate Plant Fruit popular in Baidu to find the latest chapters. Sax walked to the front, and he looked at Rog and Zoro as well as Sanji and the King of Ninjas. I have met many capable opponents today. Which of you is willing to fight me? Sarkis looked at the four and challenged them. The four of Roger looked at each other. Sauron stepped forward and said to Sarkis, I will be your opponent. And you use a sword, right? Sarkis looked at Sauron, who accepted the challenge. He was a man with a resolute face and green hair. There are 3 earrings on the left ear, and 3 samurai swords on the waist. And this man has an incomparable toughness in his eyes. Sarkis said to Sauron, no wonder you can tell that I use cold weapons, because you are a swordsman. But I want to ask you in advance. You have 3 samurai swords on your waist because you are worried about the weapons during the battle. Why do you have so much equipment? Because you can't replenish the damage. Zoro grinned and said, Humph, you really think about it? Let me tell you, I am a swordsman of the 3-sword style. Another point is that if a swordsman's weapon is damaged in battle, his life will also be lost. Damn, there's no chance to change to another weapon. There was a surprised expression on Sakis's face, and he said, oh, 3-sword style. It's interesting. Is it better to hold the katana in your mouth? Let's have a showdown. Sauron and Sarkis got closer, and the distance between the two was only 5 meters. Bellamy said to Sakis from behind him, Sakis, use your skills to kill this swordsman. Sakis said coldly, no problem, Boss Bellamy. It's up to me. Sanji said to Zoro, Al-Jihad, beat him. Zoro said calmly, don't worry, Cook. Zoro and Sarkis looked at each other. Sarkis produced 2 broad sabers from under his baggy overcoat. But these 2 sabers are different from the sabers used by ordinary navy or pirates. These are 2 curved sabers strong enough to cut off a horse's head. Big Sword Sarkis is the one who is best at using cold weapons such as swords among the Bellamy pirates. Sarkis gripped 2 large knives tightly in both hands. Zoro held the samurai sword scabbard at his waist with both hands, and he quickly pulled out the word Hideo and put it in his mouth. Then Sauron took off the green turban tied around his left arm and wrapped it around his head. Sauron quickly pulled out Yukino and Oni from the scabbard at his waist with both hands. Sauron has Snow walking with his left hand and Geesh with his right hand. Zoro, who is in the 3-sword style, is already ready to attack at all times. It's like a sword that has been unsheathed but has not yet been officially thrust out. Seeing Sauron in such a state, Sakis praised him repeatedly, he is truly worthy of being a swordsman of the 3-sword style. He looks so powerful. It seems that I must fight to the death with all my strength. Sauron looked at Sarkis and said, every time a swordsman draws his sword, it is a battle between life and death. This man, who pursues the true meaning of the way of the sword, has always been very serious about fighting. Sarkis also put his arms in a fighting posture. He held 2 big knives tightly in both hands, and his fighting posture was more like a crab wielding his 2 huge pincers. It is like clamping the prey in front of you with the left and right bow. But in his hands are 2 powerful swords. Zoro's 3-sword style really shocked Sakis. After all, the opponent used 3 samurai swords, which made the attack more powerful, more flexible, and more moves. But Sauron held one of them in his mouth, making it impossible for his flexibility to fully achieve the attack effect of holding a samurai sword with both hands. So Sarkis is not afraid of Sauron's three-sword style. This is a contest that both sides need to take seriously. What? Sauron and Sarkis sprinted almost at the same time. The weapon in his hand slashed towards the opponent. Chiang Chiang. The Yukino held tightly by Zoro and the two broadswords held tightly by Onitsu and Saki's were handed over, and sparks burst out for a while. The two sides slammed hard, and the strong reaction force knocked them away. Sauron and Saki's sprinted again, waving their samurai swords and broadswords in a fierce exchange of words. The two sides fought fiercely. Among the people watching the battle, whether it was Bellamy and Eddie or Rog and the King of Ninjas, they were paying close attention to the battle between the two. Seeing this battle, Rog also felt that Sarkis's strength was impressive. Of course, everyone in the Straw Hat Pirates knew Zoro's great strength. But such a burly body of Sarkis is actually so flexible. If it weren't for Sarkis's swift and fierce fight with Sauron after he showed his big knife just now, people would really think that he is a reckless man who fights with brute force. Chiang 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 Chiang. There was another exchange of weapons, and the two fought inextricably. The two sides exerted force violently, pushing both of them away from each other due to the reaction force. Zoro's waist was slightly bent, and his two samurai swords were facing upwards after crossing his arms. 3 swords to kill ghosts. Sauron rushed towards Saki's at great speed. The two big knives in both hands of Sarkis slammed towards his chest to block. Like a crab protecting its eyes and mouth with its claws. Clang clang. Sauron's Yukino and Kitoru in both hands, and the word Hedeo held in his mouth are all handed over to Saki's 2 broadswords. However, Saki's feet withstood the tremendous pressure. Both of his feet crushed the ground to create cracks, and his entire body was pushed dozens of centimeters by Zoro's ghost slash. But Zoro looked at the man who had successfully blocked Demon Slash. Although the opponent wielded 2 broadswords, his speed and power were astonishing, and his reflexes were also very sharp. Most swordsmen are unable to block a powerful penetration sword move like Demon Slash. But Saki's blocked it. This is enough to see its strength. Sarkis quickly jumped back after blocking the ghost cut. The burly man quickly swung 2 large knives again, but this time with his legs together. Sarkis held his arms flat, and he looked at Sauron with a hint of cold cunning in his eyes. Big sword technique spinning top. Sarkis' whole body began to spin violently like a top, and the 2 big knives he held tightly in both hands also spun like his spinning body. It was as if a huge spinning top had a sharp blade on its side, attacking Sauron. When Sauron saw Thakis attacking, he suddenly used the katana he held tightly in both hands to resist. Chong. Sauron was forced by the opponent's huge strength to keep retreating his whole body. Under normal conditions, Sauron and Sarkis would be equal in strength under the exchange of weapons, but now they are being crushed. This is not okay. In an emergency, Zoro quickly jumped away. Pirate Plant Fruit. Pirate Plant Fruit. Author, Lee A Dream. Chapter 704. You can search for Pirate Plant Fruit popular in Baidu to find the latest chapters. Sakis pursued him relentlessly, cutting off many tables and sofas in the conference room along the way. Even the walls were cut with huge knife marks. Murray and Mani beside Bellamy were a little scared. But with Bellamy here, they wouldn't be in danger. The King of Ninja looked at Sakis and praised, "He is very powerful. He is indeed not an ordinary enemy who relies on brute force." Sauron was being pursued by Sax, so he jumped up quickly. This time Sarkis looked around. But there was no sign of Sauron at all. But a dangerous murderous aura struck from above him. Sax could only see above, Sauron's body was above him. In the blink of an eye, Zoro attacked from above Sarkis. There is no way to hell with the 3-sword style. Zoro's katana in both hands pointed straight down, but combined with his own momentum and strength, the speed and strength were extremely high. Sakis suddenly raised the two big knives in his hands upward to block. In this case, the speed at which Sarkis moved his body was much higher than the speed at which he wielded a broadsword with both hands. If Sarkis didn't use the big knife in both hands to block it urgently, his head might move. Yukino and Onitsu in Sauron's hands faced straight down, meeting the blades of Saki's two broadswords. Chiang chiang. Under this huge force, although Sakis used the swords of both hands to block Sauron's katana, he withstood the huge force. Sarkis's arms trembled violently, and his arms were almost broken. His right leg jerked to the ground. People around could even hear the sound of some bones breaking. What? Sarkis swung the broadswords in both hands violently and bounced Sauron away, who had exhausted his strength. After successfully bouncing Sauron away, Sauron fell to the ground again. Zorro looked at Sakis. This man with long blue wavy hair looked very unhappy at this time, and sweat remained in groups on his face. What a great guy! Sax looked at Sauron coldly. He suddenly tore off the loose coat on his body, revealing his muscular upper body. The strong muscles of Sarkis' upper body are also full of sweat. Sarkis looked at Sauron this time with an unparalleled murderous look in his eyes. The big knife he held tightly in both hands began to be spun. Both hands are like holding a huge circular chainsaw. Big knife meat grinder. Sarkis slashed at Sauron with a swirling broadsword in both hands. Zorro swung his katana with both hands and tried to block. Clang 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 clang. Sarkis wielded the swirling sword with both hands and quickly slashed at Sauron. Sarkis is now wielding the broadsword in a state of rapid rotation with his hands, and his arms are responsible for the adjustment of the attack direction. In addition, this kind of rotating broadsword similar to a huge circular chainsaw has a huge attack range, and can attack and defend, making Sauron very passive in the handover of weapons. It's really a powerful sword technique. A pair of big swords can also be used so superbly. Zorro praised Sax endlessly. Sauron seldom praised his enemies, and those who could be praised were definitely powerful people. Thank you for your compliment. My big sword technique is a swordsmanship system that uses heavy weapons but can perfectly display speed and strength. But your three-sword style is indeed very powerful. Sarkis also responded with a few words. Sauron will not be passively suppressed by the opponent all the time. Although the Sarkis that Sauron is facing now is very fast and powerful, he still has weaknesses when using a heavy weapon such as a broadsword. Although the broadsword is powerful and strong, it is bulky and heavy. As a result, it is still less flexible. Three swords and flowing cattle needles. Suddenly, the katana held by Zorro in both hands moved forward like two bull horns, and quickly stabbed out to attack. This is purely an assassination attack. Both Yukino and Geesh stabbed more than 10 times in the blink of an eye. The word harmony held in Sauron's mouth was used as the final defense. Because when the hands are fully engaged in the front and back assassination, they cannot effectively turn to block. At this time, the samurai sword in the mouth is the last line of defense. Chong. Sauron's words of harmony in his mouth blocked the broadsword swung by Saki's right hand. The opponent's huge strength pushed Zorro's body forward. However, Sauron's Yukisashi and Kitoru also successfully stabbed Saki's body in succession. Yukino and Onitsu stabbed Saki's in multiple places in the chest and abdomen. Fortunately, Sarkis used the big knife in his left hand to return in time, making these assassinations impossible to stab too deep. What? Sarkis backed away sharply, gritting his teeth against the pain. His eyes glanced at his chest and abdomen, and he saw 5 stab wounds. Blood continued to flow out. Fortunately, these knife wounds only punctured the flesh and did not damage the internal organs. Sarkis was in pain but was able to hold on. Sax raised his head again and looked at Sauron. What a swordsman with 3 swords! He actually caused me so many injuries. Sarkis' tone was both praiseful and murderous. Zorro looked at Sarkis and said, "You are also amazing for being able to be so flexible with such a heavy and big weapon." Sarkis looked at Sauron and said, "Since it's so troublesome to deal with you, I can't continue to use these moves against you. I want to use my last trump card." Zorro looked at Sakis and said suspiciously, "The last trump card?" The murderous aura in Saki's body suddenly increased, and some of his body's functions were mobilized. Sauron felt that the opponent's murderous intent suddenly became astonishingly terrifying, and it was growing rapidly. Not only Sauron, but everyone else also felt the sudden increase in Saki's murderous intent. Saki's long blue wavy hair was quickly stirred up by the air waves emanating from Saki's body, and began to flutter wildly. His face changed from cold to contorted and fanatical. Those eyes were bloodshot and extremely murderous, making people feel terrifying, like a warrior from hell. The ultimate arcane berserker of the great sword technique. Not only is Sarkis's face distorted, his eyes are full of cruelty and terror, but even his bare upper body becomes muscular, as if his whole body is about to break through from his skin. Coupled with those eyes full of horror and murderous aura, as well as the long wavy hair floating up, he really looks like a legendary berserker. Especially the pair of broadswords clenched in both hands seemed to be infected by the terrifying fighting aura in his body, becoming even more murderous. Pirate Plant Fruit. Pirate Plant Fruit. Author, Lee A Dream. Chapter 705. You can search for Pirate Plant Fruit popular in Baidu to find the latest chapters. Seeing Sarkis' aura, Sauron also felt a bit of consternation. Could it be that this is a fighting method that overdraws all of one's physical strength? Zorro felt that Sax was going to fight a gamble now. The Ninja King who was observing the battle from a distance also had very serious eyes. Could it be said that this is a combat martial art similar to forbidden art? The Ninja King remembered the forbidden art, which is a terrible martial art among Wano country warriors. It has been circulated among some ninjas. After using the forbidden, the body can increase its functions several times in a short period of time, and the speed, strength, and perception will reach an exaggerated level. But this also has great risks. The forbidden technique is almost used at the cost of overdrawing the user's life. Once used improperly or for too long, the user will die due to the side effects of the forbidden technique on the body. The state of Sarkis in front of him is the same as the forbidden technique. Others were shocked and even frightened when they saw Sax's terrifying state. Rog felt an unbelievable fright when he saw Sarkis's crazy and powerful state. This is simply a killing god. Sanji couldn't help swallowing when he saw Sakis's berserker state. My god, is he crazy? And Sarkis' boss, Bellamy, was also very surprised. He actually used the state to fight. Bellamy was also sighing when he saw Sakis. Sarkis had previously shown his berserker state in a battle with a Sea King. In this state, Sarkis's strength was astonishing. He could kill a Sea King more than meters long in 2 strokes. Murray and Mani were even more frightened, and the 2 girls hugged each other. Eddie looked at Sarkis, his face was very ugly. Even as a staff officer known for his calmness among the Bellamy pirates, Eddie showed some fear in the face of Saki's berserker state. Sarkis is like a killing god from hell at this time. Sauron stared at Sakis intently. Sarkis, in the state of a berserker, erupted with an astonishing murderous aura. At this time, Sakis's eyes were like a demon in hell, full of evil spirits. Kill you. Sarkis rushed towards Sauron suddenly. The burly man swung 2 large knives at Zorro at an astonishing speed. Sauron quickly jumped to avoid it. Chiang Chiang. Sarkis's 2 broadswords hit the ground where Sauron was just now. The huge power of the two big knives directly cut two huge knife marks on the ground. The knife mark directly penetrated the room on the lower floor. From the two shocking huge knife marks, we can see the situation of the room below. What a powerful force! Zoro sighed in admiration when he saw the huge cuts made by Sarkis wielding two large knives. Sax continued to fight with two big knives, and he swung two big knives to kill Sauron quickly. Although he was in the state of a berserker, Sarkis did not lose his mind at all during the battle. Instead, his physical functions reached an exaggerated state under the berserk, and his speed and strength increased several times. Such a violent attack made Sauron overwhelmed. Zoro saw the window on the side of the room, swung the samurai sword in both hands violently, cut the window open, and then jumped out. "Don't try to run away!" Sarkis roared and chased after him. "Let's fight outside!" Sauron's voice echoed outside the window. After Sarkis and Zoro jumped out of the window, only Roger and Bellamy were left in the dilapidated meeting room. Rog looked at the window, and the two powerful masters who used weapons thought the place was too small, so they went out to fight. Bellamy also looked at the window and said, "They went to fight outside. Then I think." Bellamy looked at Roger and Sanji with crazy eyes. "They beat them, how about we have a showdown?" Bellamy challenged Roger and Sanji. Rog looked at Bellamy and said, "I'm happy to accompany you." Sanji looked at Bellamy and said, "Then let's have a fight." Although the Ninja King was silent, he obviously accepted the challenge. Bellamy glanced at Eddie and Murray beside him, as well as Mani and several other senior officials. "But I want to say that the rest of the people are not very good at fighting except me. So I can deal with the three of you alone. And I am very strong, and the three of you are just right to fight with me." Bellamy waved his hand again, signaling Eddie and Muley to step back. Eddie and the others understood, and quickly retreated. Whether it is Eddie or Murray and Mani, they all know that they will not have an advantage in their combat power against Rog and Sanji. If he insisted on participating in the battle, it would be a drag on Bellamy instead. Especially Mani, she was also saved by Sanji, and she was not willing to fight Sanji at all. The others exited the room through the back door. Now there are only Bellamy, Rog, Sanji, and the King of Ninjas left in this dilapidated conference room. Bellamy stood up from the sofa. This man as crazy as a sideburn dog looked at Roger, Sanji, and the King of Ninjas. "Okay, let's get started." Bellamy threw off the overcoat on her body, and the strong muscles of her upper body were completely naked. Rog, Sanji, and the King of Ninjas are also ready to attack at any time. Bellamy's body was quickly covered with armed colored domineering, and the black metallic shiny armed colored domineering quickly covered Bellamy's whole body. Bellamy now resembles a black metal man. In this form, Bellamy appears to be very hard and powerful. This is just a visual impact. This guy is doing it again. Sanji looked at Bellamy, who was full of armor and domineering. Bellamy's whole body was covered in armed domineering, and he said, "I don't know how you will die soon." Bellamy's right arm became a spring, and it began to compress with all its strength, and finally compressed to the extreme. After Bellamy's arms were compressed to the extreme, he aimed his right arm at Sanji and struck first. Spring cannon fist. Bellamy's body rushed towards Sanji, and when he was close to Sanji, the compressed spring right arm snapped open, and his fist hit Sanji at an alarming speed. The punch was extremely fast, and Sanji leaned back suddenly, avoiding the fatal punch. But how did Bellamy make it so easy for Sanji to dodge the attack, and the right fist attack failed? Bellamy kicked Sanji hard with her left leg. Boom! Bellamy kicked Sanji away with a strong kick. Pirate Plant Fruit. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Pirate Plant Fruit. Author, Lee A Dream. Chapter 706. You can search for Pirate Plant Fruit popular in Baidu to find the latest chapters. After Sanji was kicked, he hit the wall of the room in various ways. With this blow, Sanji hit the wall, cracking the wall. Rog, who was dressed in walnut-heavy armor, swung his right fist and aimed at Bellamy's head, which was a hard blow. Clang! With a piercing impact, Rog's right fist seemed to hit hard metal. Bellamy's body remained motionless. Huh, do you think you can knock me down with this level of attack? Bellamy sneered with contempt. Bellamy gave Roger a hard left uppercut. Boom! Roger rolled and flew out. With both Sanji and Rogue pinned down, the King of Ninja hurls an explosive shuriken and hits Bellamy. Boom! The explosion occurred after the explosive shuriken hit Bellamy. Taking advantage of this time, the Ninja King pulled out the ninja sword from his back. He quickly approached Bellamy. Spring resonance. Bellamy suddenly disappeared from his original position, and he appeared behind the Ninja King. Spring resonance is where Bellamy's ankles turn into springs, and then produce an amazing resonance, causing his feet to step on the ground dozens of times in 1 second. The effect of this kind of movement is comparable to that of Marine 6 style shaving. To the human eye, it looks like it disappeared out of thin air and then appeared in a new place. Bellamy appeared behind the King of Ninjas, and he quickly hit the King of Ninjas in the head with a right fist and a right uppercut. But at this time, the body of the Ninja King moved away, very ethereal and weird. Damn it, I actually escaped. Bellamy looked at the Ninja King again. I saw the figure of the Ninja King moving like a ghost. But Bellamy didn't believe in this evil, he must catch up with the Ninja King and kill him. Spring resonance. The ankles of Bellamy's feet have always been in the form of springs, and the two ankles quickly resonated, driving both feet to step on the ground continuously. In 1 second, both feet stepped on the ground dozens of times. The huge reaction force produced made Bellamy move extremely fast. This time Bellamy appeared in front of the Ninja King. Go to hell! Bellamy punched the Ninja King's torso with both fists. Because the torso of the human body is larger than the head, it is more difficult to move, and the simultaneous attack of both fists can prevent the opponent from escaping. Clang! Bellamy's fists came together hard. But the figure of the Ninja King at this time was almost lying on the ground. Bellamy saw that she had missed the attack, and quickly stepped on the Ninja King on the ground with her right foot. The Ninja King almost moved away from the ground, this time in a prostrate state. Boom! There was a crack in the ground with this foot, but the Ninja King managed to escape. What's going on? This guy is so flexible. Bellamy continues to use spring resonance to attack the Ninja King. But almost every time he was successfully evaded by the King of Ninjas. This black-clothed ninja has a flexible body and can fly over walls. It made Bellamy feel like she was really fighting a ghost. When Bellamy was firmly restrained by the King of Ninjas, Rog and Sanji also slowed down. The two were ready to attack this formidable enemy. Rog took out the big iron birch sword again, holding the sharp big sword tightly with both hands. Sanji decided to use his powerful new moves. Rog rushed towards Bellamy first. Kill! Rog clenched the iron birch sword with both hands and slashed towards Bellamy's neck. Chong! Bellamy slammed the iron birch sword in Roger's hand with her left arm. Bellamy's arm was extremely hard under the cover of armed domineering, and Rog couldn't hurt Bellamy's arm with the iron birch sword that surpassed the hardness of steel. Humph, your weapons are still very strong. Bellamy looked at Roger. Roger's attack was successfully blocked by Bellamy. In terms of hardness, Bellamy's armed color domineering is even better. At this moment, both of them suddenly heard the sound of air tearing for a while. Roger and Bellamy looked at the same time out of the corner of their eye. I saw Sanji's right leg propped up on the ground, spinning rapidly on one leg. Buzzing. When Sanji spun on one leg, the surrounding air was torn apart. What is he doing here? Bellamy slammed Rog's iron birch sword away, and looked at Sanji in confusion. I saw that Sanji was already spinning in a dizzying way. Finally, it stopped. Sanji stood on his feet again. But now his right leg was shining brightly. Sanji's right leg was full of burning heat like iron in a steel furnace. Prick, 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 prick. Sanji's right leg made a scorching sound of a hot object. At the same time, there were many sparks flying from Sanji's right leg to the surroundings. Sanji looked at Bellamy, who clenched his fists and raised his right leg. Sanji's right leg, or more precisely the lower half of his right leg, was already as hot as iron in a steel furnace. The billowing heat wave radiated from it, transpiring the surrounding air. This is my newly developed powerful attack move, Devil's Wind Kicks. Sanji also rushed towards Bellamy at extremely high speed, aimed his right foot at Bellamy's abdomen and launched a flying kick. Bellamy saw that Sanji's right foot shone like hot iron, and the heat wave just approached made Bellamy feel the astonishingly high temperature. I am afraid that the real iron making is no more than this. Clang. With a loud bang, Bellamy was kicked in the stomach by Sanji's demon wind kick. This blow is like a 10,000 catty hammer, 100 times stronger than a heavy artillery shell. After Bellamy's abdomen was kicked by the devil's wind, he flew out. At the same time, the armed domineering energy in Bellamy's abdomen actually collapsed. Bellamy slammed into the wall hard. Sanji kicked Bellamy like this with a single blow from his devil kick. Although Bellamy's whole body was covered with armed domineering, it also came at a price. This required an incredible amount of energy from Bellamy. To maintain such a powerful armed color and domineering Bellamy, it can be said that the body has to fully release its physical energy. Although armed domineering can withstand powerful attacks and is attached to weapons, it is also a huge consumption of the user's body. The reason why Sanji was able to successfully break Bellamy's defense with the Devil's Wind Kick was because the attack power of the Devil's Wind Kick exceeded Bellamy's armed domineering, which caused Bellamy's physical fitness to be difficult in a short period of time. The enduring of belief finally led to the collapse of Bellamy's domineering color. Sanji flexed his right foot after attacking Bellamy. The sparks on the right foot continued to scatter, and there was a piercing sound for a while. Sanji's demonic wind kick formed by rotating his body is actually so terrifyingly powerful. Pirate Plant Fruit. Pirate Plant Fruit. Author, Lee A Dream. Chapter 707. You can search for Pirate Plant Fruit popular in Baidu to find the latest chapters. Rog also saw Sanji's demon feet and felt Sanji's powerful attack power. The Ninja King stopped and stared at Sanji's right foot. Devil Wind Kicks exceeded my expectations. Sanji also looked at his right foot. The power of the Devil's Wind Foot is huge, but Sanji didn't expect the power to be so powerful. The blow just now shattered Bellamy's domineering armor that was harder than steel. Bellamy regained his balance after hitting the wall, and spat out a few mouthfuls of blood from his mouth. Vomit. Bellamy spat some blood on the ground. Bellamy raised his head again and stood firm. He stuck out his tongue like a sideburn and licked the blood around his mouth thoroughly. Damn it, but it's really awesome. Bellamy really praised Sanji's devil's feet from the heart. This powerful attack broke his armed arrogance in one blow. However, Bellamy also knew that the situation was dangerous, so he quickly covered his body completely with armed haki. Bellamy's head, torso, and limbs are covered in black metallic luster and armed color domineering. Then I must use all my strength to defeat you. Bellamy now has to fight with all her might. Bellamy's arms turned into giant springs, which were then compressed to the extreme. Originally, the huge springs that Bellamy's arms turned into were compressed to the extreme to have amazing ejection power, coupled with the domineering armed color, it was even more powerful. Bellamy quickly rushed towards Sanji. Double spring cannon fist. Bellamy punched out both fists at the same time, and the arms that were squeezed to the extreme bounced off, giving the fists an astonishing strength and speed, plus the armed domineering force that was harder than steel further enhanced its power. Sanji jumped away quickly, but Bellamy's two spring cannon punches were already coming. Devil's Feet. Sanji's right foot was still in the Devil's Wind kick state, and he used his right foot to kick Bellamy's spring cannon punch fiercely. Clang! An earth-shattering bang. Bellamy's spring cannon punch was going to hit Sanji's head, but at this time Sanji stopped the opponent's attack with his Devil's Wind kick. This blow was powerful, the power of the Devil's Wind kick combined with the power of the two spring cannon punches. This time, the powerful attack power of the Devil's Wind kick and the spring cannon fist consume each other. Bellamy's armed arrogance did not collapse. After all, the two-strike spring cannon fist itself contained amazing power. Even the power of Demon Feng Jiao was slightly suppressed by spring cannon fist. In the end, the two sides were evenly matched on the whole. Under the huge reaction force, Sanji and Bellamy retreated several meters from each other. Sanji regained his footing, and this time he stepped on the ground with his right foot, but the hot iron-like heat on his right foot began to fade away. Prickly thorny. The heat on Sanji's right foot and calf began to die off. But those suit pants and leather shoes are still intact and have not been burned by the high temperature. With the last spark of the heat wave, the right foot part of Devil's Wind foot completely returned to normal. After successfully resisting the attack, Sanji panted heavily. Although the Devil's Wind kick is powerful, it took a lot of effort to take the initiative to counter Bellamy's two strikes with an armed and domineering spring cannon fist. After Bellamy stepped back, she seemed a little more relaxed than Sanji. He also moved his hands. After all, the power of the two-strike spring cannon fist and the addition of armed domineering power is still slightly higher than that of the Devil's Wind kick. Of course, now both Bellamy and Sanji can kill each other with their powerful attacks. If Sanji continues to attack with the Devil's Wind kick, Bellamy will be traumatized unless he defends against it. That's awesome, let's keep fighting. Bellamy looked at Sanji, his fists clenched tightly, making a bone-cracking sound. Happy to accompany. Sanji moved his right ankle. Both Bellamy and Sanji were ready to shoot. But Sanji also has Rog and the King of Ninjas on his side. Once Bellamy has a chance to break the armed domineering by Sanji, then he will be attacked fiercely by Rog and the King of Ninjas again. Bellamy gathered the strength in his body, and this time his arms turned into two huge springs, compressed to the extreme. Sanji looked at Bellamy, trying to figure out what this dog-like enemy was going to do. Spring pile driver. Bellamy bent over suddenly, and began to hit the ground below with both fists alternately. Dong 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 dong. Bellamy's two giant spring arms, covered in armed domineering colors, alternated with each other, hitting the ground violently and continuously like a pile driver. Rog looked at Bellamy and said, "This guy wants to destroy this place." Sanji looked at Bellamy and said he's crazy. The Ninja King looked at the ground, only to see that the ground was rapidly shattered by Bellamy's attack. There were more and more cracks in the ground of this meeting room, and finally they were connected together. Boom! The floor of the room suddenly caved in. All four of them, including Bellamy, fell down. Rog, Sanji, the Ninja King and Bellamy all fell into the room below. The room below is the huge dining room in the castle. The huge red table in the huge restaurant was directly smashed by rubble. Rog, Sanji, and the King of Ninja regained their foothold in the rubble one after another. The domineering Bellamy, dressed in black armor, was also standing there. "Humph, I'm going to kill you all." Bellamy clenched her fists wildly. Sanji looked at Bellamy and said, "Okay, come on." Bellamy's ankles became springs. His two ankles resonated rapidly, causing his 2 feet to step on the ground dozens of times in 1 second. Spring resonance. Bellamy moved quickly with spring resonance. Bellamy moved to Sanji's side, this time with a right uppercut to Sanji with his right arm. At this time, Rog's iron birch sword slashed at Bellamy's right wrist. Chong! Bellamy was forced to block with his right arm, and Bellamy's domineering right arm, covered in armor, struck Roger's iron birch sword together. At this time, the Ninja King took the opportunity to swing his ninja sword and attack Bellamy on the left side of his head. Bellamy parried urgently with his left arm. Chong! The Ninja King's ninja sword hit Bellamy's left arm together. When Bellamy's left and right arms were restrained, Sanji's chance came. Sanji slammed his right leg on the ground, and his whole body spun. Bellamy looked at Sanji, screaming inwardly. Devil's feet. After Sanji spun violently, his right foot and right calf were as hot as iron. Sanji kicked Bellamy in the head with his right foot. Pirate plant fruit. Pirate plant fruit. Author, Lee A Dream. Chapter 708. You can search for Pirate Plant Fruit popular in Baidu to find the latest chapters. Boom. The power of this blow to the Devil's Wind Foot is huge. After hitting Bellamy, the arm domineering quickly collapsed, and Bellamy flew out. Bellamy rolled continuously for a long distance and hit a big hole in the wall of this giant restaurant before stopping. Rog and the Ninja King looked at Bellamy, who was kicked away, and both sighed in their hearts at how powerful it was. Bellamy regained his footing, panting heavily. Hoop 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 hoop. But Bellamy's gasping sounded more like a hyena's wheezing to everyone else. Sanji looked at Bellamy and said, "What's wrong, coward? Don't dare to fight." Bellamy was hit on the head by the Devil's Foot just now, and many of his face bones were injured. This made Bellamy's face look even more ferocious. "It's powerful enough. I'm going to knock you down even more like this." Although Bellamy was defeated one after another by Sanji with the Devil's Foot, his desire to fight became stronger. Bellamy's physical injuries just now were minor, but more so due to the heavy consumption of his armed color and domineering energy. The whole body is covered with armed domineering colors, but it consumes an astonishing amount of physical strength. But the current battle requires Bellamy to continue like this. This time, you won't succeed again. Bellamy concentrated the strength of her body, and the armed arrogance once again covered her whole body. The domineering black metallic armor completely covered Bellamy's body. Bellamy looked like a black metallic man. Instead of turning her arms into springs this time, Bellamy turned her legs into springs. He tightened his legs, which had turned into giant springs, to the extreme. At the same time, Bellamy's upper body was slightly tilted in the direction of Sanji, Rogue and the Ninja King. Spring rocket. Bellamy rushed up like a rocket, flying towards Sanji and Rogue at an astonishing speed. Sanji and Rogue both looked at Bellamy with horrified eyes. In their pupils, Bellamy's figure grew bigger and bigger. Rogue, Sanji, and the Ninja King hurriedly avoided. Bellamy flew past the position of the three of them just like a super large rocket. Finally Bellamy hit the wall. Boom. The walls of the restaurant, which Bellamy hit, collapsed rapidly. The walls of the dining room rumbled to pieces. Bellamy just stood there. Looking at the collapsed restaurant wall, Rogue and the others were shocked. This guy is really crazy. Rogue looked at the destroyed restaurant wall. Bellamy's blow just now caused extremely serious damage. Almost the entire restaurant wall collapsed, and the remaining portion had shocking cracks. Sanji looked at Bellamy standing there and said, "This guy is really crazy." Bellamy turned her body to Sanji and Roger. Bellamy looked at Roger and Sanji, sticking out his tongue like a sideburn to lick around his mouth. "I will definitely win this battle." Bellamy roared wildly. Bellamy's whole body was domineering with a black metallic luster, and now she was almost completely insane, only wanting to destroy and kill. Rogue, Sanji, and the Ninja King must go all out to defeat this crazy hyena. At the same time, Sauron and Sarkis are there. The two kept fighting, and finally broke out of the castle and fought on the ground of the reef island. Like a berserker, Sarkis waved two broadswords desperately and chased Sauron. Three blades tornado. Zoro's three samurai swords cooperated with his body to cut out the tornado formed by the sword energy. The tornado quickly surrounded Saki's. This berserker-like man was violently beheaded by the tornado formed by the sword energy. Sarkis, who was in the tornado formed by the sword energy, was slashed and his body was torn apart. But Sarkis seemed to be unconscious, and the more damage he got, the crazier he became. Ow! Sax raised his head to the sky and roared loudly. The two big knives clenched in both hands slashed around. The powerful sword chi cut out by Sarkis' two broadswords collided fiercely with the tornado formed by the sword chi. With the last harsh sonic boom, the tornado created by Sauron's sword energy was completely destroyed. Sarkis stood there and continued to growl. Zoro looked at Sarkis and said in shock, he was able to break the tornado. His strength is more than 10 times stronger than before. After roaring, Sarkis looked at Sauron. Madness, hatred, brutality, and rage are not enough to fully describe Sax's aura at this time. Die! Sarkis's strong legs jumped up, and his whole body leaped towards Zoro with amazing speed. Sauron fought urgently, and he also felt a trace of fear in his heart at this time. The opponent is extremely dangerous at this time. Sarkis jumped in front of Sauron, his two swords crossed. Cross-cutting with broadsword techniques. Zoro wields three samurai swords together. Ghost Slayer. The samurai swords and broadswords of the two were handed over together. Chong. The sound of the exchange of weapons was deafening, and the sword energy generated spread around, cutting a large crack in the surrounding land. In this confrontation, after all, there was one person who was at a disadvantage. Sauron couldn't resist and was thrown out. Thakis was very happy to see Sauron suppressed by him. Ouch 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 ouch! Sakis roared wildly. This man who had always been ruthless turned into a lunatic after using the sword technique, the ultimate esoteric berserker. Sauron jumped more than 10 meters before stopping. Sax quickly rushed over again. The two continued to clash fiercely with their weapons. At this time, Thakis clearly had the advantage, and Sauron was obviously suppressed. In this case, Sauron seems to be doomed to failure. But there is another very important situation. That is, Saki's berserker state is overdrawn. Although this state is very powerful, it can only last for an effective time. Once the battle drags on for too long, it will be detrimental to Sarkis. Although Saki's is very crazy in the berserker state, he still has some basic sense. Chiang 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 Chiang. Sarkis defeated Sauron in a series of fights. Big sword technique, double arm whirlwind. Saki slashed with irregular swings of his arms at an astonishing speed. The generated sword energy cut knife marks 1 or 2 meters deep on the surrounding ground without moving. Sauron was forced to keep retreating. Chong. The blow was so powerful that it sent Zoro flying for more than 10 meters before stopping. Pirate Plant Fruit. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Pirate Plant Fruit. Author, Lee A Dream. Chapter 709. You can search for Pirate Plant Fruit popular in Baidu to find the latest chapters. Sax looked at Sauron. Although the battle just now did not cause fatal injuries to Sauron, Sauron's body is now full of wounds. Of course, most of them were killed by the sword energy. If the big knife in his hand had directly slashed Sauron's body once, Sauron would have been killed long ago. Three-sword swordsman, are you delaying time on purpose? Sarkis roared furiously at Sauron. Sauron looked at Sakis, who was several times bigger than him with his burly body and the state of a berserker. Humph, you are afraid that I will delay time. But I will not do this. The swordsman must defeat the enemy when he is at his strongest. Sauron fought back with extraordinary momentum. Sauron also knew that Sarkis's berserker state was obviously overdrafting his own body. However, as an aspiring swordsman, his goal is to challenge the world's #1 Eagle Eye. Sauron would not have the idea of exhausting his opponent. To defeat the enemy, you must defeat the opponent openly, and openly when the opponent is at his strongest. Sauron was in a hurry to unleash his powerful attack. Zorro's 3 samurai swords took a stance, keeping a counterclockwise distance from each other. 3 blades and 108 troubled winds. Zorro slashed with 3 samurai swords. An astonishing 3-in-1 sword energy was formed. The power of the sword energy is astonishing, and it goes straight towards Sakis in the berserk warrior state. Sarkis looked at Sauron with surprise in his eyes. He slammed the 2 broadswords in both hands across his head and chest for defense. The astonishingly powerful sword energy of Biba Worrying Wind hit Sakis' 2 broadswords like heavy artillery shells. Chong! The 2 broadswords that Sakis held tightly in his hands made an astonishing sound. At this moment, Sax felt as if he had been hit by a heavy artillery shell with a diameter of 1 meter at close range. Ow! Sarkis flew out because of Biba's annoyance. After finally flying more than 30 meters, it hit the ground heavily. Boom! Sakis smashed a big hole in the ground, and he fell deep into it. Sauron looked at the big hole in the ground that Sarkis made. Hukka finally killed you. Zorro hung down the samurai sword that was gripped tightly in both hands. At this moment, a sudden sound came from the big pit created by Sakis. Sauron saw Sax standing up from the pit again. Zorro looked at Sakis and sighed, "This guy's vitality is really tenacious." Sarkis rose from the pit again. However, there are very obvious scars on his body. There is a huge blood hole on the chest that is bleeding continuously. Of course not immediately fatal. Ow! Sax roared violently again. This man is already like a beast at this time. Zorro looked at Sarkis, and quickly started to spin the 2 katana swords held in his hands and the 3 swords in his mouth like windmills. Now Sauron is going to give Sax a final blow. This is the blow that really decides the outcome. Sarkis rushed towards Sauron like a galloping lion. The great sword technique cuts the corpse into thousands of pieces. The 2 big knives that Sakis held tightly in his hands were first moved toward the back, ready to be slashed forward at any time. 9 mountains and 8 seas, 3,000 worlds without self. Zorro's 3 katana blades spun like windmills. Generated a wind-like sword energy that blows like a windmill, engulfing any enemies within the front range. Sauron's body moved in an instant, with a speed like a running thunderbolt. Sarkis' body also sped up and jumped for the last time, and the 2 big knives clenched in both hands slashed forward. The bodies of the 2 people are already like nothingness, only the weapons are exchanged for the last time. Chong! Sauron and Sarkis both passed each other with their backs facing each other. Even after the fighting stopped, the bodies of both parties still maintained the fighting posture. Sauron is like a swordsman with 1 sword in one, each of the 3 samurai swords is firmly in his hands and mouth. Like a majestic berserker, Sakis slashed forward with 2 broadswords clenched in both hands. Just like this, 10 seconds passed under the blow of the surrounding wind. Puff! Suddenly blood burst out from Sakis' burly body, swaying in the air and flying in the wind. The burly man fell forward. Gudong! Sax fell to the ground. Sauron regained his footing, and he looked at the fallen Sax. "You are really strong enough to be able to fight with me to this extent." Zorro retracted the 3 samurai swords into their sheaths one after another. After a hard fight, Sauron successfully defeated Sakis. The trick he used at the critical moment was actually his defeat against the world's #1 swordsman before. However, since the battle of survival from catastrophe, Sauron was reborn from the ashes. With the courage to sweep everything, he persevered through many hardships and eliminated powerful enemies one by one, and finally succeeded in defeating this powerful. The 3-sword style move turned into a fatal blow to smash the enemy. Sauron turned his gaze to the castle on the reef island again. Inside Bellamy's castle, the fierce battle was still going on. Roger, Sanji and the King of Ninja fight Bellamy to the death. The three fought all the time, and finally reached the top tower of this magnificent castle. Here, four people fight fiercely. Although Bellamy played 1 against 3, she did not lose the slightest momentum. Spring air explosion. Bellamy's arms quickly turned into 2 huge springs, and then he punched each other with astonishing force, generating huge force to tear the air and explode, spreading a huge shockwave towards the surroundings in an all-round spherical shape. Boom! A huge explosion of air exploded. Rog, Sanji, and the King of Ninjas were all covered by this huge shockwave. Hateful! Sanji felt overwhelmed by the impact. What a powerful shockwave! Even though Rog was wearing walnut armor, he could indirectly feel the astonishing power of the shockwave emitted by the other party. At this time, the Ninja King only used branch wings and quickly flew up. Roger, Sanji, and the King of Ninja flew away because of Bellamy's spring air blast impact. The three of them hurriedly used the branch wings to take advantage of their maneuverability by flying, and hit Bellamy. Bellamy stood at the top of the tower, and he looked up to Rogue, Sanji, and the King of Ninjas in the sky. If this is the case, then I can also use long-range attacks to negate your distance and flexibility advantages. Bellamy's face was extremely ferocious, and at the same time, she waved her fist and aimed at the solid bricks on the tower below her feet. Boom! Bellamy swung his fist and hit the masonry of the tower like a hammer. Pirate Plant Fruit. Pirate Plant Fruit. Author, Lee A Dream. Chapter 710. You can search for Pirate Plant Fruit popular in Baidu to find the latest chapters. The masonry on top of this top tower was smashed. Bellamy picked up a brick the size of a human head in her right hand. Next, you will have to taste the terrifying power of these bricks and stones. Bellamy's arm turned into a huge spring, and his hand grabbed the brick as a weapon. His arm was compressed to the extreme. Spring cannon. Bellamy's arms, which had been squeezed to the extreme, snapped open. The bricks and stones in his hand were also ejected together. The masonry flew out like a cannonball. What? Sanji looked at the brick flying towards him in shock. However, Sanji was agile and he quickly kicked the flying brick. Go back. Sanji kicked the brick back to Bellamy. Bellamy blocked with her arm, and the masonry shattered. Sanji can even kick back the shells of the naval cannons. The bricks and stones fired by the Bellamy bullets are like shells, but Sanji can still resist through his powerful legs and feet. Bellamy looked at Sanji and said, if that's the case, then so be it. Bellamy quickly grabbed the bricks one by one this time, and then continuously used spring cannons to attack Rog and Sanji. Spring cannon crazy attack. Under Bellamy's continuous attack, a large number of bricks and stones were ejected towards the three people. The three of them flew in the air with the branches and wings, constantly dodging. But Bellamy seems to have changed tactics, and he will attack more and more bricks and stones on the branches and wings of the three. For the three of them, the wingspan of each branch and feather can reach nearly 6 meters. This made the branch wings endow the three with powerful flying abilities, but at the same time made it difficult for them to be defended in time. Larger wings are also easier to hit. Click. Rog's twig wings snap off after being hit. Hateful. Rog lost his ability to fly because of the broken branches and wings, and he quickly fell into the courtyard of the castle. Rog fell into the courtyard below. Click. Another crisp sound. This time, the branch and wings of the King of Ninja were hit, and he also fell down. These damn rocks. Sanji kicked harder with his feet to push away the rocks that Bellamy fired from the spring cannonball. If you still don't give up, then I'm going to finish you off completely. Bellamy growled as he attacked. Sanji was completely angry. The man with curly eyebrows tried his best to fly higher this time. This time Sanji flew to a position more than meters above Bellamy. From this position, Sanji spun with one foot in the air. Bellamy below looked up at Sanji, completely stunned. What does this guy want to do? I saw Sanji spinning in the air like an angel with the branches and wings. During the rotation, Sanji's right foot and right calf began to glow like hot iron. This light once made Bellamy tremble all over. Sanji continued to spin over Bellamy and even the castle. This man was determined to unleash the most powerful attack. The crack of the devil's wind-footed angel. Sanji's right foot was already in the state of the devil's wind kick, and then he kicked Bellamy from the sky towards Bellamy on the top of the castle tower below. Sanji fell from the sky. The demon wind feet as powerful as the devil and the angels descending from the sky are combined into one. This is the highest level of power, no matter good or evil, they can all be combined and displayed. In Bellamy's eyes, Sanji was like an angel kicking the devil's feet in hell towards him. What a terrifying power this is! Bellamy was terrified, but the speed of the opponent was extremely fast. Sanji has already fallen from the sky, and his powerful demon feet are already about to touch Bellamy's head. But Bellamy quickly crossed his arms above his head in an emergency. Although he couldn't avoid it, Bellamy could at least defend himself a little bit like this. Boom! An earth-shattering bang. Sanji's right foot hit Bellamy's body like a meteorite. Under the tremendous force, Bellamy's arms were shaken apart. The domineering armed collar with black metallic luster was broken and dissipated. Bellamy's head was hit directly by Sanji's right foot. Zzz. Bellamy's head made a sound like being scalded by a branding iron. At this moment, Sanji's whole body was on fire. Bellamy was attacked so violently that his body couldn't bear it. This kick sent Bellamy completely into the tower below. The resulting collateral damage caused the tallest tower of the castle to shatter and collapse. Bellamy was buried in the rubble along with the tower. Sanji also fell to the ground. The wrought iron glow on the man's right foot and right calf began to fade. The right foot in the devil's foot state began to return to normal, and Sanji's suit pants and leather shoes were still intact. And the plant wings behind Sanji were completely turned into fly ash. In the high-speed rotation just now, the branches and wings themselves were actually completely destroyed. The high-temperature heat wave generated by the devil's wind legs completely scorched the remaining branches and feathers. Sanji's heart was burning, producing a power as powerful as a demon. Can damage enemies and foreign objects, but he himself is intact. This power surprised me. Sanji looked at the rubble of the tower and lit a cigarette again. Sanji, so you are here. At this time, Roger came over. Sanji looked at Rog and found that the Ninja King was also standing on the ground. When Rog fell down after the branch wings were damaged, he used the rattan whip to wrap around the wall of the castle building, allowing him to land safely. The Ninja King made an emergency use of his own glider to land on the grounds of the castle. Roger, Sanji, and the King of Ninja looked at the rubble of the tower together. In the rubble of the tower, Bellamy was buried somewhere. Bellamy was buried below, and I don't know if she's dead or not. Sanji looked at the rubble and thought, why don't we destroy it again just to be on the safe side? Roger looked at the rubble. Now facing Bellamy under the rubble, the three of them can be said to have an absolute advantage. Now that the three of them work together, even if Bellamy survives, he will still be wiped out. The Ninja King looked at the rubble and seemed to be thinking about something. At this moment, a voice suddenly came from behind the three of them. You guys seem to be doing pretty well. The three turned their heads and saw Sauron walking over. This swordsman with a resolute face could be said to have scars everywhere on his body. Pirate plant fruit.